Something changes in the INFJ when they enter their 30s. The uncertainty that once made them question everything starts to fade. The quiet strength that was always inside begins to take shape. They're no longer trying to fit in or make sense of themselves through other people's eyes. Instead, they start living life on their own terms, and that's when they become unstoppable. In their younger years, INFJs often feel lost. They're surrounded by expectations, noise, and pressure to become someone they're not. They sense meaning in everything, but can't always turn that feeling into action. They spend time trying to understand people, the world, and themselves, but the answers never seem clear. They feel old inside but inexperienced in the outside world. That mix creates years of self-doubt and overthinking. By the time they reach 30, something shifts. Experience gives shape to their intuition. Pain teaches them boundaries. Mistakes sharpen their focus. They've seen what drains them and what fulfills them, and they stop apologizing for who they are. The INFJ begins to trust their inner voice more than external approval. They stop chasing peace and start creating it. It's not about becoming louder or more confident in a visible way. It's about becoming settled and firm within themselves. The INFJ after 30 doesn't seek validation because they've learned it never lasts. They seek meaning, alignment, and freedom. They know what matters, and they stop wasting time on what doesn't. In this video, we'll look at 6 reasons why INFJs become unstoppable after 30. Not because they change who they are, but because they finally become who they were meant to be. Reason number 1. Clarity of purpose replaces the early confusion. The INFJ's 20s are often full of searching. They feel pulled in many directions, drawn to ideas and causes, yet unsure which one truly belongs to them. They might switch jobs, relationships, or goals, hoping each will give them clarity. But nothing feels permanent because they're still learning who they are. After 30, that confusion begins to clear. Years of trial and error start to make sense. They realize which paths were distractions and which ones align with their deeper values. They stop chasing approval and start following purpose. For the first time, they see patterns in their own experiences. What once felt random begins to form a bigger picture. Clarity becomes their new foundation. They no longer waste time on things that drain their energy or go against their values. They understand what gives them peace and what causes emotional exhaustion. This awareness gives them power because focus replaces chaos. For the INFJ, purpose doesn't always mean a single career or mission. It's a sense of direction, a feeling of rightness about how they spend their time and who they spend it with. When they find that alignment, they become unstoppable. Their work, relationships, and personal growth all move in the same direction. People notice this change. The same INFJ who once seemed uncertain now radiates quiet conviction. They no longer ask, "What should I do?" but instead say, "This is where I belong." That shift from questioning to knowing is the key to their strength. This clarity also brings peace. They stop comparing themselves to others and trust the pace of their journey. The INFJ after 30 no longer sees life as a race. They see it as a purpose to live out, one decision at a time. And once they find that sense of purpose, their focus becomes unstoppable. Reason number 2, emotional resilience deepens with experience. INFJs feel emotions intensely. In their younger years, this sensitivity often overwhelms them. They absorb the moods of others, feel responsible for everyone's pain, and struggle to set emotional boundaries. Criticism cuts deeply, conflict lingers in their mind, and heartbreak feels like the end of the world. They don't yet know how to protect their own peace. By the time they reach 30, the INFJ has been through enough experiences to build resilience. They have seen that pain passes, that people's emotions aren't theirs to carry, and that not every problem can be fixed by empathy. Instead of trying to please everyone, They start managing their energy with intention. They learn that empathy without boundaries leads to burnout. They realize that their compassion is a strength only when it's balanced with self-respect. So they stop absorbing every feeling and start observing instead. They can still care deeply, but now they choose when and where to give that care. This emotional maturity changes everything. They handle criticism without losing confidence. They face rejection without losing self-worth. They still feel things strongly, but the difference is that they don't drown in those feelings anymore. They let emotions move through them instead of controlling them. The INFJ after 30 doesn't overreact, they respond. They no longer chase closure or over-explain themselves. They understand that peace sometimes comes from walking away. This strength confuses people who once knew them as gentle or easily affected, but it's not coldness, it's control. With emotional resilience, the INFJ becomes grounded. They don't fear heartbreak, disappointment, or change the way they used to. They've seen it all before and survived it. That quiet endurance becomes their armor. It doesn't make them harder, it makes them wiser. And wisdom is what makes them unstoppable. Reason number 3. Self-understanding empowers boundaries and authenticity. The INFJ's 20s often revolve around pleasing others. They adapt to people's needs, try to make everyone comfortable, and lose themselves in the process. They think being kind means being available. They think love means sacrifice. Over time, that habit leaves them drained and invisible. After 30, something breaks that pattern. They reach a point where exhaustion outweighs guilt. They start realizing that constantly giving doesn't create love, it creates imbalance. This is when the INFJ begins setting boundaries, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. They learn to say no without apology. They stop explaining their quietness, their solitude, or their need for rest. They stop trying to fix people who don't want help. They realize that protecting their peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. And once that shift happens, their relationships begin to change. The people who only valued their kindness drift away. The ones who respect their boundaries stay. For the INFJ, this is both painful and liberating. They lose some connections but gain freedom. Their time and energy now belong to what truly matters. This self-understanding also leads to authenticity. The INFJ stops trying to be what others expect. They speak honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. They make decisions based on values instead of guilt. Their presence becomes calmer but stronger because it's rooted in truth. Once the INFJ learns who they are and accepts it, they stop bending to fit in. They no longer change their tone or personality to make others like them. They understand that not everyone will connect with their depth, and that's fine. This acceptance makes them fearless in a quiet way. Authenticity turns the INFJ's empathy into influence. People begin to trust them because they can feel the honesty behind their words. Their calm, grounded energy inspires others to do the same. And that's when they become truly unstoppable, when their kindness no longer costs them their peace. Reason number 4. Intuition and insight turn into strategic action. The INFJ's intuition is one of their greatest strengths. From a young age, they can sense patterns and feel when something is right or wrong long before others notice. But in their early years, this ability can feel more like a burden than a gift. They see what's coming, but often don't know how to use that knowledge. They have insights, but not always the confidence or clarity to act on them. After 30, all of that begins to change. The INFJ has seen enough of life to connect their intuition with experience. They no longer second-guess every feeling or overthink every idea. They begin to trust the signals their mind and heart send. What was once confusion becomes precision. This is the stage where intuition meets maturity. The INFJ doesn't just know things anymore, they use that knowledge. They apply their insight to relationships, decisions, and goals. They stop wasting time trying to explain how they know something and start focusing on what to do with that understanding. In their 20s, they might have avoided risks because they didn't trust their instincts. After 30, they follow their gut with confidence because it's been tested over time. Their decisions become quicker, cleaner, and more effective. They can sense which opportunities align with their values and which ones will lead to burnout. That skill saves them years of unnecessary struggle. Their insight also becomes more practical. The INFJ starts turning abstract thoughts into plans, dreams into projects, and compassion into leadership. They no longer stay stuck in reflection, they move into action. They see what needs to be done and quietly make it happen. This combination of intuition and strategy makes them powerful in any environment. They can read both people and systems, understanding how things connect beneath the surface. That makes them strong problem solvers and visionaries. People begin to notice that the INFJ doesn't just talk about possibilities, they create them. The INFJ after 30 no longer doubts their inner voice. They have learned through experience that intuition isn't magic, it's wisdom collected over time. Once they start trusting that wisdom, their potential expands. They stop reacting to life and start directing it. That's when their inner insight transforms into unstoppable momentum. Reason number 5. Network and relationships mature into aligned alliances. In their younger years, INFJs often struggle with relationships. They attract all kinds of people, some genuine, others tuning. Because they're empathetic, they give everyone a chance, even those who take advantage of their kindness. They confuse connection with obligation and end up surrounded by people who don't match their values. After 30, this begins to change. The INFJ becomes more selective, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. They have learned what real friendship and love feel like. They have seen the difference between people who take and those who give. They no longer chase connection, they build it slowly and intentionally. The INFJ circle becomes smaller but stronger. They stop entertaining shallow relationships and start investing in meaningful ones. Their conversations go deeper. Their loyalty becomes sharper. They seek people who share their values and vision instead of those who only provide comfort. This shift also affects their professional life. The INFJ begins to surround themselves with people who challenge them in healthy ways, mentors, collaborators, and friends who understand their quiet drive. They no longer tolerate environments that drain them emotionally. Instead, they seek work and community where purpose matters more than popularity. Because of this alignment, the INFJ's relationships start to amplify their growth instead of blocking it. Their energy is no longer spread thin across everyone. It's focused on a few strong mutual connections that inspire progress. By this age, the INFJ realizes that solitude and connection are both vital. They no longer fear being alone, and they no longer depend on others for validation. Their independence gives them freedom, and their chosen relationships give them strength. This combination, selective relationships built on mutual respect, makes them unstoppable. They don't waste energy fixing broken dynamics or chasing approval. Their relationships now work with them, not against them. Every person in their life fits the purpose they've chosen, and that alignment creates lasting peace and power. Reason number 6. Inner peace and fewer distractions sharpen focus. In their 20s, INFJs often struggle to find peace. Their mind races with questions about purpose, love, and direction. They absorb other people's emotions and lose sight of their own. They say yes too often, worry too much, and rest too little. Their heart is full, but their energy is scattered. After 30, this chaos begins to settle. The INFJ has faced enough disappointment to understand what truly matters. They stop chasing every new idea or trying to please everyone. They learn that peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from letting go of what isn't aligned. They start cutting distractions, unnecessary commitments, toxic people, meaningless goals. They value quiet over noise, depth over popularity, and truth over convenience. Their days may look simpler on the outside, but on the inside, they feel stronger and more centered than ever before. This inner calm changes how they work, love, and live. Their focus becomes sharper. They can give their full attention to one thing at a time instead of dividing it among endless worries. They stop apologizing for needing space and start using that space for creativity and purpose. Others notice the difference. The INFJ, who once overthought everything, now moves with calm certainty. They no longer need to prove their worth or explain their choices. Their peace becomes their power. It gives them quiet confidence that can't be shaken by opinion or chaos. This calm doesn't mean they've stopped caring. It means they've learned where to place their care. They give their time to what grows them and their energy to what aligns with their values. Everything else fades into the background. When an INFJ reaches this stage, they become truly unstoppable, not because they do more, but because they do less with greater intention. Their life becomes focused, balanced, and authentic. Their strength is no longer loud, it's steady. By the time an INFJ reaches their 30s and beyond, something remarkable happens. They stop fighting with themselves. The inner chaos that once made them question everything turns into calm awareness. They no longer chase meaning, they live it. That quiet confidence is what makes them unstoppable. The INFJ's strength after 30 doesn't come from force. It comes from understanding. They have learned who they are, what they value, and what they can't compromise. They've faced enough pain to know what drains them, and enough joy to recognize what feels right. That wisdom turns into power, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself. They've stopped wasting time trying to be understood by everyone. They've accepted that not everyone will get them, and that's fine. They've stopped pouring energy into fixing what's broken. Instead, they build what matters. Their empathy is no longer scattered, it's focused. Their kindness is no longer naive, it's conscious. After 30, the INFJ becomes unstoppable because they've learned balance. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. They know when to give and when to walk away. They can sense the difference between love and attachment, passion and distraction, effort and exhaustion. They live with purpose, not reaction. The world often mistakes their calm for passivity, but it's the opposite. Their stillness is deliberate. Their peace is earned. Every decision they make is guided by years of growth and understanding. That's why they move differently now, slower but stronger. What makes them unstoppable isn't what they gain, but what they let go of. They release guilt, fear, and the need to please. They let go of relationships that no longer align and roles that no longer fit. They let go of trying to explain their depth to people who can't see it. In that letting go, they find freedom. So if you're an INFJ approaching 30 or already past it, know this: you're not losing your sensitivity or softness, you're refining it. The parts of you that once felt like weaknesses are becoming wisdom. The traits that made you misunderstood are becoming your foundation. You're not changing into someone new, you're finally becoming yourself. That's why the INFJ after 30 is unstoppable. Not because they've hardened, but because they've awakened. Not because they've stopped caring, but because they've learned where to place their care. They have turned pain into purpose, chaos into clarity, and empathy into strength. And once that transformation happens, nothing, not fear, not doubt, not failure, can hold them back again.